Welcome to Transcendent. I'm Joe, and I'm the dad.
And I'm Raya, and I'm the daughter.
Hey, I was talking to a vegan the other day.
Yeah, a vegan, of course, somebody that doesn't eat any animal products.
Exactly. And she said, people who sell meat are gross.
Uh-huh.
And I said, people who sell fruit and vegetables are grosser.
What people may not know is that you call people grocers. Somebody that is. You used to make that joke when I was growing up, and I worked in a grocery store. Oh, a bunch of grocers that work there. We are talking today about Pride and the place of Pride. Happy June, everyone. Happy Pride. It is my most favorite time of the year. It's the time that the rainbows come up. Rainbows come out, the rainbow flags come out, and we get to go to Pride celebrations, and there's lots of fun things that are going on.
As a matter of fact, Transcendent is going to be exhibiting at Pride this year for the first time.
If you know us in person and you're going to be at a Pride, let us know, because there's a good chance that we might actually be showing up and having a table at one of your Prides.
That'll be wonderful.
So what does Pride mean now? Well, think about, of course, where Pride comes from. Pride began as a protest. Now, has it just become a party now? And if LGBTQ rights have advanced, do we really still need these Pride marches? Today, we're going to take a look at three smart people that I know that I have encountered in other aspects of my life and different things.
Not that you know personally,
I don't.
You did.
No, I mean, no, I don't know any of them personally, but I have had interactions with their work in ways that have influenced me before we were ever putting this together. And I'll share those as we get into these. So I respect all three of these people. But they hold different perspectives on Pride now and what Pride means. And we thought we would go through and try to give you an idea of what each of these three folks think and other people that hold their positions. And then we'll let you make your own decision. What does Pride mean now? Well, where did Pride start?
Stonewall, 1969. And it wasn't a parade, it was a riot. I mean, kind of a riot, or maybe it was a full-blown riot.
It was a real riot. No, it was. And I've been there right to Stonewall. I've made a pilgrimage there. I've gone inside with a friend, and we sat down and had a few drinks there, and it was just like any other gay bar anywhere else in the country now. But boy, at the time, it was a really big deal because it was such a big part of counterculture. It was a countercultural gay space, and at that time it was illegal to do anything that was considered gay. And the police would come in and rough up the folks from time to time and just try to show them what was up. And this time they said, forget it, we're done. We're done submitting to this. And they had a huge riot, and from there, people took notice and said, this isn't really right what we're doing to the gay community.
Right. Yeah, it was a major event in the LGBTQ plus community. And at that time, really, it was probably considered gay and lesbian. I don't even think they were using the letters LGBTQ.
I don't think so.
Point.
I think that probably came around in the 80s.
Yeah.
That's when I first encountered. At that time, it was just LGBT. And nobody even added the Q or added any of the other letters.
The I, A,
in there, right?
cetera.
All of those. But yes, it was very much gay and lesbian. And in fact, Marsha P. Johnson, that we just talked about a few weeks ago in reference to our Take 5 episode, where they had the big uproar in Watertown, Wisconsin about the school board canceling their song. Well, the song that they canceled, go back and listen to that episode. It's only 6 minutes long. It was a really great episode. But they were talking about that the song was honoring Stonewall and what happened there in Marsha P. Johnson, how she was the mother of a revolution that caused the mother of revolutions.
Right.
And that's where it all starts. This is where we trace it back to. This is when the rest of the world took note. What is going on here? And wait a minute, why are we allowing police to come in and rough people up for being who they are. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. This is when the culture started to turn.
And that was 1969. The following summer in 1970 was the first Pride event, if you want to call it an event. And in reality, it definitely was not a parade. It was originally called the Christopher Street Liberation Day March, and that was in June of 1970.
So we have been celebrating Pride as a culture for, what is that then, 55, 56 years?
Wow.
Then now, well, that's assuming, but 1970 was one, so it's actually 57 years that we have been celebrating Pride. Of course, it has grown and grown over time.
Yep.
And so, but Pride was never a celebration. It was always a symbol of resistance, a symbol of survival. It was about visibility. Hey, we're here. We're queer. Get used to it. It used to be the chant. They would march down, and that's what they would. We're here. We're queer. Get used to it. And then saying, we refuse to be invisible. And it was really an expression of grief. It was saying, we're sick of being always feeling like we have to be in the shadows, always feeling like we're not good enough to be part of mainstream culture because we have to be relegated off to these back alleys or into these dark gay bars.
What I think of it as is we're wrong. That's what they say. We are wrong. And so we always are feeling as though we are wrong. But the truth is we're not wrong. We're just left-handed. Isn't that right?
Yes, that's right. There was a song that came out a decade later that was really popular in the lesbian community. It was called Angry at This. And it was a play on Angry at This. But also that Athos was, I don't quite remember, but she was somehow related to the poet Sappho, who was the first lesbian poet. In fact, she came from the Isle of Lesbos, which is why we get that name lesbian. But the lyric said, I hate not being able to hold my lover's hand except under some dimly lit table, afraid of being who I am. And the whole song was about how she felt like because she's a lesbian, she was not able to just live a normal life, not able to just be herself, be out and free and part of the regular community. But because of how she was wired as a person and who she was attracted to, she instead was thrust out of the regular community and had to go to these dimly lit tables, had to go to these back alley places and feel like she couldn't participate. She couldn't be part of the regular culture, the regular everything else. And we've come a long way since then, haven't we?
Oh, we have.
Now, this is important. Pride is important, not because we're nostalgic. It's important because every modern argument about pride is really an argument about which part of that original pride do we want to reclaim and claim for us right now in 2026? Which piece is still important? And so you get these different perspectives on pride meant then, and here's where we are now, and here's how our situation right now being different from what it was in 1969 and 1970. In how we as the LGBTQ plus community and allies should respond now. So the first person we want to look at is one of the perspectives of saying, I think pride has done its work. And this comes from Andrew Sullivan. Now, I first saw Andrew Sullivan at a debate where he was debating Maggie Gallagher on whether or not gay marriage should be legal. So this was before the Supreme Court ruling saying that it was okay to be married if you're gay. I think this was back in the early 2000s, if I recall that I saw this. And Andrew Sullivan did a lot of essays, New York Times op-eds and that sort of thing, where he was like one of the people that was pretty vocal talking about gay rights. And so he has really earned his place. I remember he got up and he said, his very first thing in his opening remarks, he said, hello, my name is Andrew Sullivan, And there is nobody that I am attracted to that I can be legally married to. And then he began his remarks. I don't know if I have the quote exactly right, but I do that from memory because that whole point was burned into my mind so much at that time. And it was quite an event there, that whole thing. And so I really wanted to honor him as being a forerunner in the movement for LGBTQ plus rights. He has been out there. He's put in the work. He has put in the elbow grease, so to speak. Now, his position is not that pride should disappear, but that we are past this era of liberation. We don't need pride as a liberation event any longer. It's kind of done its job. We've moved beyond it.
How I can relate to that is that you really don't understand what I have to go through being left-handed.
That must be really rough. I know. I mean, there are times where you probably could tell me a whole list of things.
Of course I could.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
The most common one is try using a scissors left-handed. You can't do it.
Yeah.
You can't cut with it. There are left-handed scissors, but I did learn to use the scissors with my right hand.
You did? Wow. Yeah. Okay. Can you use it with your left hand and just move it over and cut on the right side? Not really, huh?
No, you can't. But you have to use it with your right hand. And so what I do is I hold the scissors and cut with it, but I move the paper. I don't move the scissors. I move the paper.
Ah, there you go. Okay, so you figured out a way to make your left hand do the real work.
Yeah, the left hand is the action hand.
So, but let's talk a little bit then about Andrew Sullivan. A few quotes that I pulled here, and I don't know that I'm going to get him exactly right here, but we're going to do our best to try to get his position. He has said, integration is not the same as assimilation. So the idea is, yes, we're never going to be the same. And gay people, gay men in particular, in his case, lesbian women, bisexual people are never going to be exactly the same as the people around. He also said, we've got to learn to take yes for an answer. That the culture has said, hey, welcome. You can get married now. Everything is good. And yeah, of course, there's going to still be some haters out there. But the idea being, okay, well, the culture has largely accepted us now. And so what more do we want? Can't we just go on? He kind of figured he was fighting for this time of, this is what we want. We got what we wanted. Do we still need to keep, hey, come on, we still want more. Well, what more do we really want? This is what we wanted. And then a third quote that we pulled up for him, I do think it's simply a fact that the core civil rights ambitions of all of us have been realized. And that's the real claim that he's kind of promoting here. We've already realized our civil rights pieces, so we can be done now. We can move on. We got the thing. Now let's go on. Do we really still have a place for pride? And this is where the disagreement actually lives. Because the people that say, are you kidding? Civil rights? We're not even close to the civil rights that we need to be having. Do you see that there's no protections for transgender people about being fired from their jobs or from being thrown out of their rental places if the landlord doesn't like them? Many places in the country have no protections for that. Many places in the country do not have protections for gay or lesbian people and a variety of other things. When you look at the actual statistics that are out there, the statistics are not bearing us really being equal. There's still a long ways to go. And yet Andrew Sullivan would say, okay, fine, let's work on that now, but let's work on that as a social movement. This is not something where we still need pride. We still need marches and parades. Those are for gaining legal rights. And we've already got all of those legal rights.
What you're saying here is that it is basically, yes, we've achieved rights in some areas, in other areas we haven't. And it's regional. In some parts of the country, there is no rights. There's nothing left for us. It's mostly been taken away or it's never been accepted in the first place. In other areas, we've got the total freedom.
Now, one critique of Andrew Sullivan is that he does tend to be much more conservative in his positions in general on a lot of different issues. And so, for instance, if you look at some of what he said on transgender issues, he tends to echo a lot of the talking points that you see brought up in the wider conversation, particularly in more conservative circles, about what about transgender children? What about transgender women playing women's sports? Is that okay? And some of those things that you and I might say, are you serious? Have you ever actually seen a transgender woman playing a sport? Do you know a single transgender woman that is playing sports? Most of us do not. I mean, this is just not a thing. There's a handful here and there. And yet this becomes this talking point. And he's echoed a lot of those things as well. And so I think many of us in the LGBTQ plus community would look at him and say, hey, come on now. There's still a long ways to go, specifically for transgender people. And so we still need pride. And we're going to get to one of those voices that you may have seen on Orange is the New Black. She'll be coming up right after this.
I'm Chuck Reynolds, and I started listening to Transcendent because Joe is my friend. I keep listening because I have friends, colleagues, and family members who are part of the LGBTQ community, and I want to better understand their struggles and perspectives. I have become a supporter because I believe Joe and Raya are truly helping to preserve relationships and save lives. Join me in supporting Transcendent. Just go to transcendent.com, click on support, and select the amount you'd like to give each month. It can be as little as $3, and you can cancel at any time.
We'll give you the answer to who that was from Orange is the New Black in just a moment. Before we do that, I want to encourage you, make sure you stay to the end of this podcast. We're going to have some invitations for you, some questions that you can be chewing on as you come to your own conclusion about what does pride mean for us now.
If you're wondering who we were talking about, it's Laverne Cox, and you would know her from Orange is the New Black. She was a Sophia. If you guessed that, you guessed right.
She was that character that she was actually in prison, and this is kind of a trope, but I don't know, maybe it's the original writer, Piper. Was the original writer Piper? I don't know anyway, but Piper was the character that whose eyes we saw through.
Yeah.
But Laverne Cox's character, Sophia, was actually in prison because she had stolen money in order to get, quote unquote, the surgery. And so even with that, it was a little bit of a transgender trope, but we still really liked that character. If you watched it, you and I both we watched the first few seasons and then we drifted away towards the end.
Yeah.
It was not really our thing so much. But if you ever watch Laverne Cox speak, she is amazing. I really like her a lot. She, I feel like, is such a great defender of transgender rights. And I remember I first started watching Orange is the New Black when I was just beginning my transition. And so when she would come on screen, I would light up and, oh, that's my person. There, I'm identifying with her. Okay, I want to be like her. She is, in addition to being an actor, she's also a producer, but she is a longtime trans visibility advocate. I've seen her, some of my favorite videos with her have her in discussions with Bell Hooks, the feminist author who writes some really great stuff. You want to read some good feminism that is down to earth and really practical? Bell Hooks is really good. And the two of them have interacted quite a bit. And I really, really like Laverne Cox.
So where does she stand?
So her position is that pride matters more now than it did 50, 60 years ago, and certainly more than it did, say, 10 years ago. Because the backlash right now in the current political environment is so much stronger than it's ever been before. I think it's especially interesting that Laverne Cox is a transgender woman. Andrew Sullivan is a gay man. I think that distinction matters because if you are a white gay man, probably the world does look a lot different right now. And you can feel like, haven't we gotten everything that we want? And those of us, the letters farther down the acronym, LGBTQIA2+, those of us down in those more obscure letters are saying, no, we have not gotten everything that we need. We are still being persecuted. We still have issues. A few key quotes from her. She says, as trans people are more visible, and we're more visible than we've ever been before, this is the backlash to that visibility.
Yeah.
So you see politicians now using us as political leverage. Oh, look at how they're transing our kids. And then they'll point out this politician is always talking about transgender people. And you find out they haven't even talked about transgender people at all. But because we're used to score political points, they just want to say, oh, can you believe how all of these people are talking about transgender? And they just won't shut up about transgender people. You find that actually the ones that are the advocates for us are hardly talking about us at all.
That's true. That's very true.
Laverne Cox also says, as things have gotten better, and it's important to acknowledge that things have gotten better, there are people who are still afraid to be themselves. And so you see here, she's acknowledging some of what Andrew Sullivan is talking about, that pride does still matter. Pride mattered then as well. But not only does it matter from a political perspective, but there's still a lot of people that are saying, I don't feel comfortable. We've talked about it on this podcast. How many people, teenagers, that are in the closet and they're not okay coming out yet because they're worried about what their conservative parents will think, or their church will think, or the people around them will think,
or even their own friends, their own group.
Right. Even though things have changed a lot, and they have changed a lot. This is exactly what she's saying. They have changed a lot. Let's acknowledge that they've changed, but they have not gotten where we needed to be. A third quote, she says, we have to listen to trans people, and we have to believe trans people and give us space. So it's really asking for, look, can you just hear our voices? Instead of talking about us all the time, can you just let us speak and share our stories? Tell about our experience and what we've gone through? Do we really need to be constantly pushed to the margins all the time?
And she also pointed out that rights aren't something that just get ratcheted up more and more and more. They do go backwards, which we have seen in the last 2 years. That happens a lot.
There never used to be bathroom bills. And then in 2017, people got an idea, hey, let's put a bathroom bill out there because we need some more political leverage. We need to figure out a way to rile up our base. And if we paint the picture into people's minds about men with big burly beards putting on a dress and and walking into the women's bathrooms, we can really stir up. I don't think Santa wears a dress as he goes into bathrooms. But that is exactly what people think. They're imagining Santa Claus with a dress.
Yeah, that's right.
And that is not how transgender people are at all. In fact, I get way less pushback on using the bathroom, which by way less, I mean zero. Nobody looks twice at me when I use the bathroom, than many women, cisgender women that have short haircuts and don't dress in traditionally feminine ways. What it's really doing is it's a way to police gender. Mm-hmm. And they say, oh, no, you are what you are. And then you say, okay, well, what about this person over here that looks really masculine but was assigned female at birth? Oh, well, she should try to be more feminine then, or she should, or whatever they say. And this is Laverne Cox's point here, is that our rights do go backwards. And the whole proof of this is when we look at these bathroom bills, when we look at the way that we are being put out there as political pawns, the idea of pride is still load-bearing for those parts of us in the community.
Of course. So what's the third camp?
So this one, it was hard to find somebody that's a great representative of this, but Sarah Schulman is an author that I really respect. And she's got some quotes that I think really reflect this position. ACT UP is also one of the groups that I think has kind of embodied this. And this is the idea that pride, it's not that it's become useless, it's really become split. in that we still really need pride, but we need a radical version of pride because mainstream pride has just gotten too respectable. It's all driven by money. This is kind of the reaction that some people have when they walk into Target, or you used to walk into Target every June and you'd see their pride display. Now they pulled back on that a little bit. We'll see what they do. I haven't been into the Target yet this year to see if they pulled back this year or not. But last year they'd pulled back a little bit. But in previous years, I remember going in and being like, isn't this great that I can walk into Target and I can get rainbow socks and T-shirts and umbrellas and things saying, I stand with pride, I side with pride. I think that that's really exciting. But there are plenty of people that say, look at how they've turned this into a corporate thing. This is no longer a grassroots movement of people supporting gay and lesbian, bisexual, transgender, and other queer rights. This is now a corporate machine that's just looking to score money from those of us in the community. And there's a lot of anger, I think, towards that. So let's look at some of her key quotes. And a lot of these come from her book, The Gentrification of the Mind. I like Sarah Schulman as an author. I've read one of her books, and I really like what she has to say. She said, there's a very rarefied gay rights, highly funded sector. So this is what she feels like corporate pride is. She's not using quite those words for it, but she's basically saying a lot of pride has become very corporate.
Yeah.
She says it's not individuals that lead enormous paradigm shifts. It's community. So the idea is that let's move beyond the idea of the great men of society. And typically people that use this idea of the great men do usually talk about men. And so those of us in the LGBTQ community that have pushed back so much against gender stereotypes and gender expectations, largely then push back against this idea too of the great men of history. That no, it's not the great men or even the great individuals. It is the way that communities, grassroots communities, band together and say, we're not going to take it. We stand with Dee Snider. That was Dee Snider from Twisted Sister.
Oh, but it was also The Who.
The Who was...
We're not going to take it.
That wasn't The Who.
Yes, it was. Pinball Wizard. No,
we're not going to take it. Never did and never will. We're not going to take it. Going to break it. Going to shake it. Let's forget it. Better still. Okay, well then my generation then took that and turned it into a heavy metal anthem.
Yeah.
No, we ain't going to take it. We're not going to take it anymore. Third quote from Sarah. The burden of perfection was put on people with AIDS. She's talking about ACT UP, but the principle generalizes. Oppressed groups get forced into tidy narratives to be seen as legitimate.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, you know what? People with AIDS always have this kind of story. I mentioned earlier, Laverne Cox and her character Sophia on Orange is the New Black. Trans people always have this kind of narrative. Now, that was high visibility at the time when that first came out, but now that would be seen as very much a trope. And we would say, come on, really? Is that the only story that you can tell about us? And this is the idea here, is that those of us in the LGBTQ plus community oftentimes have a certain small number of stories that are told about us. I remember a trans woman that was very influential in my life early on in my transition. And she said, being transgender is one of the least interesting things about me.
Yes. I remember you saying that before.
Right. And that's kind of the idea here.
Well, Schulman doesn't really have a single anti-corporate quote about pride. We're using her broader framework and how movements get domesticated once they become respectable. And that's what she's saying. She's saying that it's all now just fine, and they're selling these products and they're creating a corporate business out of this.
Right. And one of the things that I really like about her is she's a very nuanced author. And I think all three of these people are very nuanced in their positions. I may not have gotten them entirely right. Our discussion may not be exactly what they're saying. I think for hers especially, because we were kind of pulling some of those out of a different narrative where she's talking about AIDS and the AIDS crisis and everything that happened with that. But it does represent a larger idea here. So where do you stand on this? Is pride still necessary? What do you think? Do you stand with Andrew Sullivan that we have come really beyond the place where we need pride in the way that it's become right now, and it's time to move on and do a different thing, not be so loud about things? Do you stand with Laverne Cox thinking, no, this is still really important because we still see the areas where we need to be loud? Do you stand with Sarah Schulman or other people that represent similar perspectives of thinking, well, we don't need pride as it is right now. We need a different style of pride. We need something that's much more grassroots, something much more down to the original roots of what it used to be. And you can see how all three of these go back to that initial Stonewall riot and that next march that happened the year later. All three would say, we stand in line with that. Andrew Sullivan would say, I stand in line with that completely, and we've gotten what we wanted. Laverne Cox would say, I stand in line with that completely, and we still have farther to go. And Sarah Schulman and other people like her would say, I stand in line with that completely, and we need to get back to something grassroots like that. I don't know that there's one right answer.
No, there isn't one right answer, but there are a lot of people with differing opinions. And that's true about everything. So even though we are, and we've had many discussions about this on this podcast, we are one group united together to try to get total acceptance, total affirmation, and to have people be totally affirming. And yet we can split on these issues because we'll see it from a different perspective. Where you stand is where you think is the way to go. Where somebody else stands is the way they think it is. They think, well, it's gotten to be too much of a showpiece. Maybe it's gotten to be too big, and it's an event. Hey, we'll go there and have fun, which is fine. But everybody doesn't feel the same way. Everybody has their own perspective. But the ultimate perspective is that we truly want everyone to know that it's all normal.
We promise you some questions to be chewing on. If you could rebuild pride from scratch today, what parts would you keep? What parts would you change? And what was your first pride? And if you've never gone, what kept you away? If you have gone, what made you decide to go? And what did you like about it? Were there parts you didn't like? Chew on those a little bit as you think about the place of pride here today. And if you feel up to it, we'd love to hear what you think. Send us your answers, transcendent@gmail.com. We read every one of those emails.
And with that, we'll see you Monday. Whoa, that I know. I'm having a senior moment.